What is going on, y'all? Robert Sykes, KetoSavage.com, and today is the start of our reverse diet. So I've been documenting this entire competition prep, all 33 weeks of it from the top, taking you along every step of the journey, every single week with a detailed spreadsheet overview that goes over my macros, my nutritional manipulations, my posing, my training tweaks, everything. And I'm going to do the exact same with you for the reverse diet, because the reverse diet is one of those things that often gets overlooked and doesn't get the attention that it deserves, and I want to make sure to counter that. So from the top, what is a reverse diet in the first place? Well, when you diet down for a competition, or maybe you're not a competitor and you're doing an extreme fat loss phase, you lose a lot of body fat, you cut calories, or maybe you've just been chronically restricting calories for far too long. That downregulates your hormones, your metabolic rate, you lose body fat, lots of factors at play there. That is the equivalent of you climbing up a mountaintop, reaching the peak of that mountain, and that being the summit. Now, what a lot of people do is they then just jump off the edge of the cliff and wreak total havoc from a hormonal, metabolic, and psychological standpoint, and a physiological standpoint, and we want to avoid that. Once we've reached the zenith, the peak of that summit, we have to gradually return to base camp in a healthy manner. That is what a reverse diet is all about. Some people... There are differing opinions on the best way to do a reverse diet. Some trains of thought suggest that you want to return to a healthy body fat percentage as soon as possible and not spend any time in a deficit longer than necessary. Some people are of the opinion that you need to be very gradual with the reverse diet, kind of how you were in the cut itself. There are many differing trains of thought. What I have found to work best in the context of this ketogenic prep protocol is to stick to many of the same habits that you have leveraged going into the cut itself that have worked well for you. So I personally continue to track macros, continue to meal prep my food, and take a pretty structured approach to the reverse diet. And I'm going to walk through exactly what that approach entails over these next several videos as I'm going through my reverse diet in real time. The main goal of the reverse diet from all aspects is to return to a healthy metabolic baseline, return to a healthy hormonal state, shunt any of the negative psychological factors that come with putting a healthy degree of body fat back on post-show, and to make sure that you have a healthy relationship with food post-show. A lot of competitors that are going through a prep depriving themselves of foods that they love and enjoy, and then just binge afterwards, have a very negative relationship with food post-show. That's what happened to me my first several shows. I was just totally screwed up, and that's what led to a downward spiral of disordered eating, which I want to avoid with a well-implemented reverse diet. Let's use the celebratory meal post-show as the catalyst for the reverse diet. So that falls into the week prior, but I'll just kind of touch on it here to reemphasize the significance of that post-show celebratory meal. So when I finished my last competition of the season, I did not go and binge on a bunch of carbs and sugars and foods that my body knowingly would not respond well to. I took my family and crew out to a Brazilian steakhouse. I ate 3 pounds of meat, and my blood sugar and blood ketones stayed stable. I went to bed feeling full and satiated. I had properly signaled hormonal signals from a hunger and satiety standpoint, and I woke up feeling great without any GI distress or a significant weight gain. I think I only gained 1 pound the following day, which is kind of crazy. Most competitors cannot say that. Most competitors will have gained 10 to 15 or more pounds after that crazy celebratory meal if they don't implement a proper celebratory meal. So just for curiosity's sake, let's look at what that meal consisted of here. So actually was not going to track that meal, but I had my friend Greg, who was there with us at the steakhouse, at the Brazilian steakhouse. He weighed out the food for me as I was eating it. This is what I consumed the day of the show to give you all some insight. So the morning of the show, I had the Nut Pods creamer, the heavy cream, and the butter in my coffee. I had 2 Keto Bricks the day of the show before stepping on stage, and then I had a coffee with some cream after the show. We went out to eat And that meal consisted of, this is a lot of food, y'all. I put in about 6 tablespoons of butter, assuming that a lot of that food was cooked in butter. Some of this is somewhat of an estimate because I didn't prepare it myself. A total of 3.6 ounces of sirloin steak, 2 ounces of sausage, 4.4 ounces of chicken thighs, 6.3 ounces of ribeye steak, 4.5 ounces of beef ribs, 4.1 ounces of pork loin, 4 ounces of chicken breast, about 6 pieces of bacon, 6.9 ounces of lamb, 3.5 ounces of additional ribeye steak, 2.2 ounces of leg of lamb, 2 ounces of beef sirloin, 4 ounces of filet mignon, 2 eggs, about 6 slices of salami, and 5 ounces of cheese. None of those foods are foods that I did not or would not have eaten throughout the prep. They're all meats, eggs, and cheeses. So quality foods. I wasn't deviating to the extent of eating foods that I know aren't contributing to my overall health and betterment. So that is step number 1. If you are following a ketogenic diet especially, the last thing you want to do is binge on a bunch of carbs and sugar post-show. So all that, plus a brownie, a ketogenic brownie that my lovely wife made for me after I returned back to the Airbnb, that was made with half of a keto brick, 2 eggs, 28 grams of almond flour, topped with 2 tablespoons of peanut butter and 1 ounce of mascarpone cheese. Again, nothing too far outside the window of what I would normally eat anyways. So I knew from a food, what the food was comprised of, that it wasn't anything foreign to my body. That is a ton of food. I'm not advocating people eat that much food on a regular basis. The total for this day, counting the fatty coffee in the morning, the 2 bricks I had post-show, and all of that meat at the Brazilian steakhouse, yielded almost 8,000 calories, about 7,900 calories, of which there were 657 grams of total dietary fat and 440 grams of protein. So that is a lot of food, y'all. That is more than anybody would likely need on a daily basis. But I want to reemphasize the fact that because it was all quality foods that I eat anyways, my body responded incredibly well to it. There was no dysregulation in my blood sugar or ketones. There was no GI distress the next day. There was no negative psychological impact that occurred because I didn't feel guilty from the foods I was consuming. So if you are competing, keep that in mind first and foremost after you walk off that stage and you go out and enjoy a meal eaten ad libitum without tracking. Now, just to showcase what that did to my weight and kind of what my weight was doing throughout that week or the week post-show specifically, so the first week of the reverse diet, I woke up on Monday, the following day after that massive amount of food, at 153.1 pounds. The day of the show, I was 152.3. So after all that food, I gained less than a pound. That's pretty good. I didn't have to have any guilt because I didn't wake up 20 pounds heavier like I did after my first show. So that's a massive, feather in the hat of the ketogenic prep protocol and the celebratory meal mindset post-show in and of itself. So throughout the week, this is the week of Thanksgiving. It just so happened that the week after my show, the week 1 of the reverse diet, also happened to fall on the week of Thanksgiving when most people are going out and eating and overindulging in foods that they know aren't contributing to their overall health and betterment. My weight was pretty much stable throughout the week. I was traveling, so 153.1, 152.6, 151.2, 153.1 the morning of Thanksgiving Day. After we landed back in Arkansas from the trip, I did a session of cardio on Tuesday, 25 minutes at level 16. And Friday, I'm going to continue incorporating the ketogenic caloric refeeds throughout this reverse diet, but I am going to taper them as my weekly calories increase. With that said, I made my planned refeed macros fall on the Thursday of Thanksgiving, because as everybody else is having their Thanksgiving meal, I'm having my planned, prepared refeed meal, but I did have it fall on Thursday instead of Friday. My refeed macros for that day were 310 grams of fat, 150 grams of protein, and 20 grams of total carbs. I opted to have a ribeye steak with some butter, and a Keto Brick on the day of Thanksgiving. So again, as I'm going through this, I'm going to be continuing to track my macro intake, track my meals, and take a very structured approach with this reverse diet. And that continues to be the case even on holidays. So I have a healthy relationship with food. I'm able to do that and not feel deprived. Everybody's going to fall on a different spot on that spectrum. That's where my mindset's at. I want the data. I want to be able to showcase that to y'all. So I'm going to keep tracking as I am. So what we have here from a planned macro standpoint is the week post show. These numbers are higher, 175 grams of protein, because I was doing that extra pound of lamb every single day going into the show to fill out muscle glycogen and fill out further. The week prior, my protein was only at 100 grams. What I'm doing now with the reverse diet, in week 1 of the reverse diet, is I'm going to take an aggressive approach to protein and bump that up to equate to 1 gram of protein per rough pound of lean mass. So I am so lean right now at about 3-4% body fat. I weigh 150 to 155. My lean mass is pretty much right around there, 145 to 155. So I went ahead and bumped up my protein right out the gates to this reverse diet week 1 to 150 grams. That's why my protein is now at 150 grams. I also increased my fat from baseline at 125 grams to 135 grams. So I'm probably going to stair step that dietary fat up by about 10 grams or so each week, and the protein will continue to increase as well. Again, as these weekly macros are increasing, the refeed macros will be simultaneously decreasing until they more or less meet in the middle, and then I can phase out those refeed macros altogether. But that is why you see an increase in dietary fat and protein from a standard week going into the week of the show. So that's what we have from a macro standpoint. With the macros this week, I'm at 1875 on the calories. The refeed macros this week, which I again put on the day of Thanksgiving, yielded 3,470 calories. I did move that to Thursday instead of Friday, but they were the same intake. So 3,470 calories on the total caloric intake of the refeed meal, which is an 80.4% fat ratio. 80.4% of my total calories are coming from the dietary fat. Once you average that out over the course of the week, it winds up being about a 68.5% fat ratio because my protein is now higher than my dietary fat on a day-to-day basis. So when you look at what a standard day consists of for me, not counting this crazy celebratory meal day, all right, so here is the standard day for this week. We've got the 4 tablespoons of Nut Pods creamer. We've got the 230 grams of egg whites. That's going to help bump up that protein. We've got the 1 full Keto Brick. We've got 8 ounces of 85-15 beef, 1 whole egg, and 6 ounces of elk. And then my electrolytes, I'm holding steady at 11,500 milligrams. And that's going to yield the total calories, the fat of 135 grams and the protein of 150 grams that I'm shooting for this week. So that's what we're looking at from a food standpoint. That's what we're looking at from a macro and weight standpoint. Again, my weight is holding stable the week post show, which is what we want. We want to have a gradual increase in weight because we are going to be starting to put on a little bit of body fat to a healthy extent while also trying to prioritize building muscle once we start getting into the range of a caloric surplus. We just want to do so at a sustainable rate that is healthy, that is gradual, that does bode well for maintaining a healthy relationship with food and just sticking to what we know has worked tried and true throughout the prep itself. I am going to be gradually reducing my cardio as we go. You don't want to just cut that off completely right out the gates because that would not bode well either. So throughout the end of the prep, I was doing about 2 cardio sessions a week at 25 minutes at level 16. I'll start gradually tapering that off via reduced intensity. So I'll drop the level maybe 1 week. The following week, I may drop the time. The next week, I may drop the frequency and only do it 1 session a week. So I'm just going to start stair-stepping that back a little bit from an intensity, frequency, and duration standpoint on the cardio. But again, I'm not cutting it out cold turkey. The same is true with the posing. As strange as this may sound, I actually enjoy the posing post-competition. I enjoy the training post-competition. There is something beautiful to be said about going to the gym to work out and kill it, going to do cardio, and going to pose when you don't have the weight of the competition looming. You're just doing it because it's habitual, because it's something you enjoy, because it falls into your love of the sport in the first place. So doing that now that the shows are over, I just have this overwhelming sense of gratitude and just joy for the act of doing it because I want to, not because I feel I have to or am obligated to. So I don't recommend just removing that from the equation entirely. Do that, soak it in, feel and focus on how great you feel as you're doing it without the weight of the world resting on your shoulders any longer. You almost feel like you have an increased strength in the gym, even though you are still just as depleted and your calories are still pretty low, just because the mental component is now just fresher and cleaner. So I would encourage that as well. The last thing I want to show you all here is just some updated posing footage. This footage was taken when I returned back from Thanksgiving. So this is after that massive celebratory meal. This is after my Thanksgiving refeed meal. This is pretty much the Saturday after the competition. So nearly a week post-show. And as you can see in this footage, I'm still pretty tight. I've got a little bit of a bloated midsection simply from all that food, but I still have all the striations in my arms, in my chest, in my legs. The vascularity is still there. My tan is kind of starting to rub off there. But you can just see that I don't look like I put on 20 pounds because I didn't. I mean, I still have all that definition in my legs. I still have the vascularity in my legs. I've got more fullness to my muscles simply because I got a better night's sleep without that weight of the show looming on me. My body was able to recover. I feel good. I feel refreshed. And I just enjoy the component of posing here and the joy of the sport of bodybuilding. So let that be kind of the overarching theme here. You know, you want to reverse diet in a healthy, sustainable, manageable way. You want to maintain a healthy relationship with food as you go through the reverse diet, and you want to put on a healthy degree of body fat in a sustained manner so that your metabolism and your hormones can return back to a healthy baseline. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the onset of the reverse diet. That is week 1. Again, I'm going to be documenting this every single week going forward. You'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing with my foods, with my meals, with my macro manipulations, my training tweaks. One thing that I am going to do differently, or not differently, but one thing that I'm going to do as I have in prior years is, since there is no longer a show looming, there are no more photo shoots, there are no more of that I have to peak for, I am going to allow myself a little bit more variety in my foods on that refeed day. So I'm going to continue to prep my meals, continue to prep my macros, hit those macros on the head 6 days a week. On the 7th day, which will be the refeed day, I'm going to hit the macros accurately and perfectly and according to plan as well. But I will do so by incorporating foods that are different and just unique from what I've been consuming throughout the prep. This affords me the ability to enjoy those flavors and that variety. They're all going to be ketogenic, obviously. It's going to give me the opportunity to cook alongside my wife and prepare meals as a family and just give myself the psychological break of that rigidity. So I'm excited about that. But again, it's all going to be foods that are in line with the ketogenic diet and lifestyle that I know my body responds well to and that are hitting those macro targets on the money. They're just going to be coming from different sources week to week. So I have a little bit more variety in that regard, which will make this process even more sustainable. Thank y'all for tuning in. Appreciate y'all. And I'll see you next week for week 2 of the reverse diet.